Hey there, and welcome to Conversations at the Well. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the topic of comfort, which I don't know about you, but in my life right now, right here in this moment, seems to keep coming up as both a positive thing, but also a negative thing.
And me, for one, I think y'all know that I love comfort. However, as we've been having some discussions, we've talked about how comfort can actually be kind of dangerous. So let's get into it. Join us for this conversation at the well.
See you there. Hey there, and welcome back to Conversations at the Well. We are back.
Finally.
In action. We are here.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like our conversations every week. It seems like a good opportunity to get away from everything, kind of hit the pause button on life and just kind of reconnect and have a conversation. And you've been starving me for the last few weeks.
It's been great. Like, it's been a lot of stuff going on between being sick and traveling
for work.
Yeah. And then I think one time it was just a schedule conflict.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So here we are, we're back and we're going to get into it.
Absolutely.
So what are we talking about today?
So today is all about comfort. And, you know, there are maybe a few things that come to your mind when you hear the word comfort. For me, I think about comfort food.
Yeah.
Some good old sweet potatoes, some yams, some good food. But comfort means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It can mean food. It can mean how you want your life to be. I want to live a comfortable life. What are some other things you think
Your
about?
Environment. So just like the comforts of home, you know, you talk about those type of things. Just like some of the wonderful things that we get to enjoy in our life, like air conditioning.
There you go.
It's not a necessity. It is in fact a comfort. Although I think some of us will argue it is a necessity. You might argue it's a necessity.
Yes, absolutely a necessity.
But then there's just like where you are in life. I think that there's sometimes we can find ourselves in comfortable places that we've gotten accustomed to. We know what to expect. All of that stuff is kind of just it's repetitive, it's routine, and we kind of just know it.
And that part gets real when you talk about comfort on your job. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly how to be the best. Everybody needs me for everything.
Yeah.
But what happens when your next step takes you out of the place of knowing everything, but now you got to go back down to zero and start over when you're being pulled out of your comfort zone to get to whatever you think your next level is.
Yeah. And in fact, I think it's safe to say that growth is like the antithesis of comfort. It's the opposite. Like you cannot be.
What you talking about?
You cannot grow when you're comfortable. It is a process that it stretches you, it pulls you, it elevates you, and all of those processes and experiences more times than not are very uncomfortable.
And I think it goes beyond growth, because sometimes we hide behind this word growth, where someone may say, I don't want to grow right now. I'm exactly where I want to be, but you can't grow, you can't expand, you can't make more, you can't get more, you can't evolve. All of the things all of the adjectives or words you would use to say getting to the next level or leveling up, or I want to get to my new none of that works without getting uncomfortable, because it requires something in your life to change. Now, you may be able to grab hold of it for a minute and still keep your habits and still keep what you've been doing and still keep your comfort of yesterday, but you'll never be able to fully take on what it is that you're after. You'll never be able to fully receive what it is that you are trying to take hold of until you are open to your life not being quite as comfortable as it was.
Yeah. So I guess, can we maybe talk about maybe some of the, I don't know if we should talk about the comforts that we're experiencing now, or rather times where we have been made to be uncomfortable to get us to a next step.
Trying to put my business all out in the street.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, in this season I'm in right now, like where I am right now, I do feel like things are shifting and things are changing. And what that means for me, not to be like some holy word about shifting and all the shift in the atmosphere.
Be holy, it's fine.
But in real life, it's like life is changing and responsibilities are increasing, or I feel like responsibilities will be increasing. And something super wise I've heard, I think it was T.D. Jakes that once said it. He says, in every new stage of his life, he attacks with new regiment and process. And so what that means is when he gets a new business or when he gets a new responsibility, a new child, whatever the newness is, for him to be able to succeed, he's recognized that that the tools and the habits and the things he used to do to keep his life on track will no longer serve him in this new environment. And so there's a timing and there's a process in which you have to change how you do things in order to be successful or in order to find comfort in your new uncomfortable place. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's confirming of some of the experiences that I've been having lately, because I do think I am being pulled into more. And I say pulled because I'm not going willfully.
I see what your heels done.
No. But I'm being forced to change. I'm being forced to let go of some of the things that have not been serving me in this point in my life. And I'm also being guided to do more. And I am the type of person that likes to not do more. I like to do less. I like the idea of like simplicity, but God's like, no, that's not for you. Like, you know, it may work for other people, but for you, I need you to do more, because there's more that I have.
But unpack what you mean by more, because I think you may have someone out there who's listening and it's like, well, why wouldn't she want more? Like, are you so spoiled that you feel like you don't?
Go ahead, continue your question.
Are you so spoiled that you feel like you don't need more or want more or require more?
Absolutely.
Like, tell us where you are.
I mean, that's a really good question. I cut you off. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm done now because I've been cut off 2-3 times.
You have.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm very spoiled, and that's quite frank.
Did y'all get that on camera?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna replay this over. In fact, I'm gonna make a clip of this so I can bring it up.
There's no denying that, though. Like, I'm not shy about, like, I am the creature comforts. Like, I have all of the things that I think people consider to be the American dream, right? Like, we have a beautiful home, we have a beautiful marriage, we have beautiful children, we have wonderful jobs, we have all of those things.
Handsome children.
They're okay. They're handsome too. Okay. But they have beautiful spirits. They're just, I love them. So in any case, we have a lot of the boxes that most people would desire. We have those things checked. And then on top of that, we've added on even more things. Like we have a business, or businesses rather, and we have responsibilities at our church. We have like, we have been entrusted with a lot of different things. And
what I think I hear you saying is that comfort could and would probably be, we could just live life as it is and just relax and come home and do homework and be okay.
And in fact, people have questioned especially in those times where I'm feeling so overwhelmed, and I might confide in someone, like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed, like I have so much going on. And they're like, well, you brought all these things on yourself. And I'm like, well, yes, but I think that's a very simplistic way of explaining those things. It's not that we just brought them on ourselves. I think we have been driven. I don't know how to describe it. I know you don't want to be holy, but I just am holy. So I'm gonna just say, I do think that God just drives us into more. He's entrusted us with a lot, and he's entrusting even more things to us. So, you know,
and I think it's super simple. To whom much is given, much is required. So, you know, you can sit back and just be a consumer of what you've been given, or you can say, I recognize that this is a gift. I recognize that there are responsibilities attached to this. How do you desire to use us? Or how do you desire to use us in a way that is supportive or equivalent to what you've given us? Because I don't think we're naive enough to say that we're here just because you're smart, or just because I'm smart, or just because we think things through. Like, a lot of stuff breaks our way, and we don't believe that those things are by happenstance. We believe those are decisions that God has made to say, hey, we're entrusting you with, or I'm entrusting you with this. And I think to have that approach, or to have that perspective, brings you to, all right, it's time to pay the piper. Like, I would like to just come home and sit on the couch and watch football, but I can't remember the last time I watched a full NFL football game or basketball game or whatever. Like, there's stuff that needs to get done.
Yes, and I would love, not necessarily football. I mean, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Actually, I would love to watch a football game.
The last football game you watched was at
No,
Falcons
it wasn't.
game.
Let's talk about something else.
28-3.
I've watched games since, but that one was a heartbreaker. So in any case, but to answer your question, yes, I have so much already, and I would be perfectly content for life to remain the way it is.
But you're getting pulled.
But I'm getting pulled. Guys like, no.
Okay. So
More.
you find yourself getting pulled. Your heels are dug into the ground.
Yeah.
Where are you today? You still got your heels in the ground?
Yes.
Like, what are you doing?
Well,
I love your honesty.
yes, but I'm also, my heart is changing.
Ooh.
My heart is changing. I am. Yeah.
I think that's like a huge moment of recognition. Not for you as if you don't know this, but for people listening and for anyone who hears it, that your heart can change while your heels are still dug in the ground. Like you, there are steps to this process in which people think when you decide everything's going to change. No. It starts in your heart, or actually probably starts in your mouth. Then maybe you may see something. Then it may go to your heart, and then it turns into actions. But if you stop at my heart has been changed, you can have a changed heart but no changed action. You can speak that. You can speak truth and speak that you want to love someone, but until it's your actions and the truth of your actions come out, it's still worth nothing. And so I think that's a step that we often overlook, to say, oh, well, my heart's changed, but what about your actions? There's still work left for you to do.
Yeah. So my heart is changing. I do think that I've gotten more. I don't even know exactly what happened. I can't even name like what the steps have been to get my heart to begin to be moldable and amenable. I don't know if that's the right word, but like just I don't know what has happened to get me to the point where I'm like, okay, all right, I hear you. And I am becoming more ready to let go of my current comforts in favor of where you're trying to take me.
Which you keep saying so much that's like so many lessons that are in here. I don't even think you're even catching them all. Like there's a dynamic of your journey and my journey as individuals in which we're trying to, in some cases, sometimes we don't really try, but in some cases we try to become the best version of ourselves and to become the best example of who God wants us to be. And I think as I grow, that impacts your life. And as you grow, that impacts my life. As I dig my heels in and say, I'm done growing, that impacts your life. And likewise on your side. And so I think from a marriage or from a relationship perspective, there are things in which we observe about our spouse, or not even observe, or are impacted about our spouse, where we were like, you really need to change that because that's impacting me, or that's not really working. Yeah. But I think the purity of what you said is, although I wish it was like, oh, well, my husband gave me this amazing word and that inspired me to change. It's not what happened. It was a heart change that was brought on by something that you don't even recognize or remember, probably God. And so I think as we look at our spouses, at our fiancés, girlfriends, boyfriends, people we're in relationship with, sometimes the biggest change may not need to be instigated by you. Sometimes it's recognizing something, bringing it to the Lord in prayer and allowing God to work it out in his timing. Because I don't think it's the first time I've been like, hey, you should probably do more, or hey, there are more responsibilities for you. But it doesn't quite go like this when I have the conversation.
No.
But it doesn't go like this at all. But
you try to change me?
Right. But I don't want it to make it sound like I had this moment with God, or it's like, you need to change. No, I like, this has nothing to do with me, but in alignment with everything that I probably have ever asked of you, to get you to a point where it's like, hey, I recognize I need to move. And so I think the lesson in that little nugget that you just kind of breezed over is that there are some things that you can change and you can influence, but as it gets to those things that matter and that are deeply ingrained in those that we love, sometimes you just have to turn it over to God. Or if you're not even to the point or have a relationship where you're turning it over to God, take your hands off and let him just work on it or fix it or impact it or influence it, because it's going to be a lot more smooth in his time than our time.
Yeah. I'll say the best things that ever happened in my life were when I let God do it. and I was actively like working, like trying to do it. You want me to expand on that?
No, I was going to just make a correction. The best things that happen in your life is when you listen to your husband.
Even before my husband, even before I had a husband, actually, that's one of the things I was thinking of is like, I mean, I've shared this with some people who know me personally know this story, but it was a struggle in the dating. Oh my gosh. For those out there in the dating world.
It's 'cause your attitude.
It was absolutely not because of my attitude, but it's just hard. And for those who are out in the dating world, bless your hearts. Bless you. I will be praying for you because it is hard to kind of navigate that, especially when you have morals and standards that you're sticking to that may not be common.
Yeah.
And so it was tough for me. And I said, God, this is enough. Like my heart was broken. Like I was just not necessarily broken from an individual, but just broken from the entire experience because I was not getting what I wanted out of it, which was to find someone who would love me and not find me as like disposable. Like I find the dating pool tends to be like, oh, I'll date you now, but kick you to the curb later. Like that's just not how I deal with people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like being dealt with in that way. So anyway, I say all that to say, I said, Lord, I clearly I'm doing this wrong. I've been trying, but it's a mess and I can't anymore. So I'm taking my hands off. I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to focus in on you and what you want me to do. And how you want me to grow. And I really, it was inspired by a sermon that I listened to from Andy Stanley, a pastor out of Atlanta. And I took a year off of dating, or at least that was my intention. And 6 months into that,
broke all that up. 6
months into that, that's when I met you. And you completely threw me off because I was very focused on, no, I'm just doing me right now. I'm just focused on the Lord, trying to grow. And here you come. But it was instant. It was an instant recognition that you were different. And it was an instant recognition that I needed to at least give you the time of day and hear what you had to say.
and I think that's the heart posture you're talking about, where, hey, we're talking about growth and a heart to grow. It's one thing to try to lead it on your own. It's another thing for the change to happen in your heart and then turn into your actions.
Yeah.
You were talking about the process you were kind of going through that vein. Keep going. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one time where I said, okay, I literally surrendered, literally was like, I cannot do this anymore. This is not working out the way that I wanted to. God, take it over, because unless you say go, I ain't going. I'm done. And he was like, all right, I got it. Mm-hmm. He like immediately things just started. I did some travel on my own, some international travel on my own. I was working out regularly. I was trying to get I was working on my finances and my job. Like I was just doing all the things that I knew I needed to do as far as growth was concerned, and not so concerned about who's going to do it with me long term.
And then at some point that turned into comfortable everything that you've kind of pulled together.
And then you were a disruption to that. Mm-hmm. But God was like, you must remember that all of the things that you were doing here were in preparation for him to come in, but I needed you to work on this stuff first, because this was not in order. Mm-hmm. So you got that stuff in order. Down here he comes. You're going to have to make room for him in your life. And I think it does relate to this conversation, because yes, I did become comfortable in that, and you coming in and kind of messing up I'm just doing me. Mm-hmm. Where now I had to learn how to do us. Yeah. That was a shift. That was a change, but it was like the best change. I'm so glad that change was made. and then where we are now, I think that there's even more. I mean, it happened with children. It happens anytime, as you were mentioning with TD Jakes, anytime something is added to you, it forces you to do things differently. You can't just, if you're a single person, you can't remain single while married. If you're a married person and you all desire children, or you're about to have children added into your life, you can't remain a couple without children. You just can't do the same actions. If, getting a house, you can't be in a renter mind space when you own a home. Mm-hmm. like there's just things that happen in the evolution of gaining more responsibility. It requires more of you. That's scripture. That's what you said. It's to whom much is given, much is required. That's scripture, but that's also wisdom.
So in that situation, you had to change your mindset from, or move out of the comfort of the groove you found in being single to being married or dating.
Coupled, yeah.
And then so today you find yourself mother, wife, entrepreneur, all of these things.
All of the things.
And you're being drugged out of that comfort into a new place.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this on camera. Okay. Okay, so it's not that any of those, the thing that's changing is that more is being added to the business, because the business as it stands right now is beautiful. It's great, but there's greater, there's more, there's, I guess I can say this, we're adding on, a coffee shop to the building that we have. It was already outfitted for it, and it was already really a part of the plan initially, but I knew that adding that type of a business in was different than what we've done. Everything else has been a service business. This is a product business. And so that requires us to learn new skills about how to manage inventory. It requires us to be in prayer about the employees that will need to help to run the thing, because we can't just do it on our own as we've been accustomed to in the past. It's requiring us to learn about just food industry and kind of what that entails, and all of the things that we haven't really, it's just new. It's new. And so that's one way that I know is we're being pushed into. But the other things are just the expansion of some of the other services and some of the other opportunities that we offer through the well, to help build community. And what I'm thinking is like, okay, there goes my Saturdays, there goes my desire to go and do all the things with my kids at their extracurriculars and all that, and perhaps as things become more settled and as things are in place, then those things, I could still do those things. I'm not going to neglect my children in favor of all of these different things, but just some of the ease of somehow that we have acquired or been able to maintain in our life. Some of that is going to become a little bit more complex. It's also forcing me to let go of some of the things that I don't. This is in my prayer time yesterday. This is what was said. Focus on the things that only you can do.
Focus on the things that only you can do, my child. Is that what it sounded like?
Is that your God voice?
Yeah.
God doesn't sound like that to me.
Oh, what do you sound like?
It's hard to describe.
Tweet.
It's more like a thought.
Oh, okay. So no sound.
No sound.
Okay.
But I recognize.
It'd be cool if it was like that, though.
I have heard the voice of God before.
Did it sound like that?
No, it was more like, it was much quieter than you would think.
Okay.
For me.
God usually not yells, but he's very sharp with me.
Yeah, because
I don't want to say anything
I didn't want to say it. I wasn't going to say it, but you said it. It's out there now. But focus on the things that only you can do, and delegate the rest.
Wait, what was that? What does that mean? Or where did that come from?
That was in my prayer time yesterday. Oh. Focus on the things that only you can do, and delegate the rest.
Okay.
And so what that means, like, just to be clear, only I can be his wife. So only I can be your wife. Mm-hmm. Only I can be the mother to our children. Mm-hmm. Only I can be your partner in this business. Mm-hmm. These are the things that are like only I can do. Only I can do the job that's been entrusted to me through my employer. Mm-hmm. All the other things, I tend to raise my hand for a lot of stuff. Mm. Those things.
She raised her hand like she at an auction with an auctioneer trying to win a painting or something.
Because my motivator, I like to help. I like to be of guidance and assistance. Mm-hmm. And so when those opportunities come up, it's usually because there's a need for somebody to do it and nobody else is raising their hand. There's probably a reason for that. And I have begun to be quiet and look around and like, oh my goodness, nobody else is raising their hand. Why do I feel the need to fill the void and raise my hand? So anyway, letting go of some of those things that were in service to other people, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but I think there are seasons for it. And I think the season is over for a lot of those things, and really to become focused more on things that are of great interest, or have some like it's going to pour back into me as well. So like, it's across the board. There's in a few different ways those things have been coming up. And I think right now, as I'm kind of weaning off of those things, my job is to set it up in a way that when it gets passed to the next person, that it's left better. It's better, in better condition than I found it, so I can pass it over to the next.
So I hear all of that.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
What does that mean in real life? Like, actionably? Like, because even me, like, being married to you, like, I hear that, but I don't really know what it means, if that makes sense.
You want me to give you an example of?
I get, yeah.
And what part? You mean the passing it on to someone else, or making it better?
So the word was focus on the things that only you can do.
Yes.
So that comes in, that gets into your heart. What does, and not to ask you specifically what actions you're going to take, but what would that look like actionably in your life? Like we're talking about a broader conversation about comfort. And I think those two things are connected, but in what ways do you believe that your comfort could possibly be disrupted, and what will that result in? I guess, if that makes any sense.
I'm trying to.
Question.
I'm trying to make. I don't understand the question.
Like, so you just listed off a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know what that means, like in real life. Yeah. Like what changes? How does that impact or influence anything?
Well, the getting rid of the extra stuff. It makes room for me to be able to, I don't feel like it's less for me to juggle. Okay. So right now.
So it's really an action or activity of getting stuff off of your plate, not necessarily adding anything or doing anything more.
Well, I have to get things off my plate to put more things on my plate. And the things that I need to put more on my plate are the things that are actually the things that only I can do. Okay. Because I've actually, full transparency, I have neglected some of the things that only I can do because I had so many other things that I had to do. And so it's just recalibrating and reprioritizing the things that I have on my plate, because you can't, you start adding stuff to a full plate, it just starts falling off. So I'm actually in the process I'm going through now is identifying what do I need to take off. So I have actually room for the things that I need to pick some stuff off the floor that I dropped to be able to, my plate, I don't think my plate will become any less full. It will just become more full of the things that I actually need to prioritize.
And I think that's super important to talk about and to communicate about, because I think when you're looking at anyone who has stuff or has some level of stuff, you're like, how the heck are they doing all of this stuff? And I think it's so important to the transparency of the conversation to say stuff gets dropped all the time. Yeah. I mean, I drop stuff, you drop stuff. It's just what's getting dropped and can you see it? But stuff is getting dropped or reprioritized. And I think, to any mom or dad or husband or wife, it's important to say that, like, there are decisions you're making each and every day, not responses to requirements, but decisions you're making as to what's important and as to what's going to be prioritized in a particular season. And I think it's our responsibility to recognize those decisions and recognize what those decisions are doing to those who we love, or those things, opportunities, or organizations we're a part of. And then, as it's laid on our heart, make decisions to either continue down that path or to go down a different path. But I think the the failure of a lot of us is that we just continue blindly driving down the road and never checking to say, are we on track? Like, are we where we expected ourselves to be? And then, 10, 20 years down the path, we don't have a relationship with our kids. Or we don't have a relationship with our loved ones, or everything around us is falling apart except this one thing that doesn't really matter, but we thought was so important for so long. So I think that was a really good addition. I know from my perspective, and kind of going down that same path or conversation you've been talking about, I've been trying to rebuild my life around a routine in the morning, because it's so difficult, like, to get back on track if you start on the wrong foot. Like, so it's all been about a morning routine for me. So trying to get up at a certain time, trying to get up,
awake,
wake up, then get out of bed. Then get your day started, get the kids ready. Like, we split up kind of how we do different things. And so making sure that I'm not just like, I know if I just lay here and act like I'm asleep, she'll take care of it. But like holding up my end of the bargain and like getting out of bed and doing the things that make the household work. Because, I can't expect for you to be able to flourish in your day if I'm dumping all the crap I don't want to do on your plate all the time. So
and likewise.
Yeah. And so, like, if it's my responsibility to get the kids dressed and out of bed and teeth brushed and face washed and breakfast made, okay, go do that. So then I actually can set you up for a successful day, and in addition to me, because if I can get out on time and get the kids to school on time, then I can get to the office and get working, and everything else flows from there.
Right. So it just is a recalibration. So you're recalibrating habits, which I've also done some of that as well, but just the recognition of everything that I have going on is not necessary. So cutting the fat, getting back to I don't want to say the basics, because I don't even know what that is for our life. What is the basics? So it's not maybe that level, but just reprioritizing the things that are most important. And I think God is putting me in that process, because he's like, listen, there's more coming. As you get the rest of these things together, as you start taking action on the other things I've told you to do, you're going to need room for it. And right now you don't have it. So I think he's giving me grace. Thank you, God. I think he's giving me grace to remove the things on my own terms before he has to remove things. He has to remove things. Yeah. Then you don't want that, because then that's it's uncomfortable either way. I wanted to say something else around that, and I kind of lost my thought, but it was around, I know I've heard, and I don't know who said it first, but like when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else, and just being more mindful of who and what I'm saying yes to. That's becoming a really big thing for me, because what I don't want to do is favor everything else and everyone else's desires to do things or whatever, and it is in direct contrast with building the marriage, building the family, building the life that not that I just desire, but we desire, and I think that God desires for us. So I guess that's my thing, because I'm really bad at saying no. Really bad at saying no, but I'm becoming more clear in that, and I'm also becoming more assertive in my no.
Yeah. And I think this is I think this is a first part of a much deeper conversation we're going to have about comfort over the next few episodes, and just how it impacts us, how it influences us, and where it's maturing us to get through.
Yeah.
I think, just as I said before, like you're dropping so many like nuggets of wisdom in just your everyday conversation, just about thanking God for the grace to be able to come into the awareness of this before he has to push you into the reality of him taking things away. And I think that goes for our listeners as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is an opportunity for you to go on a journey with us, and for you to go on a journey in yourself to say, how is how I'm living or how I am governing my life impacting or influencing the things I'm praying for, the things I'm asking for, even if you're not religious, the things I'm hoping or manifesting or whatever words you want to put in there, how's it influencing those things? And how are your decisions to say yes or no to what you're currently comfortable in, limiting your ability or your space or your margin or your gap to allow those more things to come into you, whether it's a new job, whether it's another child, whether it's a relationship, a business, whatever you have. Do you even have the margin or the space or the thought capital to allow yourself to do those things well? And so I encourage you to stick with us over the next, I don't even know how we're going to release these things, whether there's going to be a bunch on one day or a couple of days or whatever, but we encourage you to go on this journey with us. We encourage you to, one, thank God for the grace for you to listen to this conversation, for us to be transparent with you and kind of talk about the things that we're working through, and hopefully that you'll go on this journey with us so that you don't have to get to the point where things are taken away, where life is forcing you to make a decision, but rather you can be on the leading edge of that conversation to say, hey, I've gotten a little bit too comfortable, or I'm comfortable now and I desire discomfort, because discomfort also means growth and also means I can get to the next level. And so I think we're going to end this one here. We're going to probably come back with another one. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into a few conversations that we had, a few interesting quotes we've had from a few people in our life around the topic of comfort and what that looks like in real life. But we want to thank you so much for joining in with us for Conversations at the Well. As we get back in the saddle, come back to the table.
I'm so excited.
And enjoy some conversation. I like talking to you.
I love talking to you.
And I think it's going well so far. So this is part one. I don't know what the title is yet, but it's going to be something with comfort in there. See how close I am to what the title actually is. But join in with us. Hopefully you'll be here next week as we go into our next conversation at the well on the topic of comfort.